So how do homeowners tell the difference between
Yes.
just like cosmetic crack or just something that might be a structural concern?
Typically, hairline cracks are kind of the first sign of stress. And one of the telltale signs is that after it rains, an area where there's a hairline crack or even a crack starting to form, that part will be take the longest to dry out. Over time, these things just get worse. They don't get any better by themselves. And so
Welcome to Lawrence Real and Local, Keepin' It Real podcast presented to you by the Lawrence Board of Realtors. We're your go-to source for all things real estate in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm Lexie Haskin with Vista Bank.
And I'm Patrick Dipman with McGrew Real Estate. Together, we are here to make the journey to homeownership a breeze. Join us as we share insider insights, expert advice, and a dose of fun along the way.
Welcome to Lawrence Real and Local, Keepin' It Real podcast by the Lawrence Board of Realtors. My name is Lexie Haskin with Vista Bank.
And I'm Patrick Dipman with McGrew Real Estate.
And we have Jeremy Newman with TopGun Concrete Lifting here today. Thank you for joining us, Jeremy.
Welcome.
yeah, thanks so much. This is great.
So give us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little about your company. Just tell us about you.
Yeah, so I represent TopGun Concrete Lifting. I'm one of the business development people in the company, and my role at TopGun is just to build relationships and help folks understand our solution for them, both on the residential and the commercial side. A little bit about me: I come from actually the education world and had spent 11 years as a teacher in middle school, and so does that really translate to concrete? No.
Hey, but it does translate to this podcast. You're educating us.
Exactly. And that's, and we can get into that too, but the angle that we like to approach conversations with homeowners or business owners or people who own facility is through that educational lens, where it's like, we're not coming in here to sell you on a solution that you don't need. It's we're going to educate you and help you understand the best solution for what you have going on at the particular property. So that's, we can get into the kind of that frame of mind on the education side of things and how we like to operate. But, at TopGun, we just appreciate the relationships and finding a solution that's right for that particular situation and really nothing more. So,
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about concrete lifting and what that looks like versus replacement. So when somebody hears TopGun Concrete Lifting, or they just see on YouTube or Google or whatever concrete lifting, what is that actually?
Yeah. So before we dive into that, there are three things that I want to promise through our conversation here. And that's that we'll dive into what concrete lifting is and how it can be a viable solution. We'll dive into and hopefully allow people to have a better understanding of what they can do to preserve their exterior spaces, including the concrete surfaces. And then hopefully through all that, you'll have a better understanding of how we operate at TopGun and how we can best serve the community that we're in now. But concrete lifting in itself is just, we're taking horizontal concrete surfaces that have sunk for a number of reasons, and we're using a polyfoam material, and we're just lifting it back to its original location, its original spot where it was first poured. Many people have heard of the term mud jacking. We serve the same purpose. We do the same job. We just use a very precise polyfoam, which is a plastic foam. So it's hydrophobic, meaning it repels water. So that means it's longer lasting. And generally our results that we get from polyfoam is much better and longer lasting than mud jacking. But because people are more familiar with the mud jacking term, we always try to make those comparisons as part of the education piece that we serve the same purpose, but our solution is longer lasting.
So is polyfoam a newer kind of technology when it comes to concrete lifting? Obviously mud jacking has been around longer, but just trying to think about why people might not have heard or know about polyfoam as a solution as much.
Yeah. So polyurethane has been around for a long time. But it's a technology that's always developing. And so I feel like the foam that we're using is from when we started in 2019 is continuing to evolve and become a better, longer lasting product. But the foam itself, comes out as a 2-part material, and through a chemical reaction, it creates this really dense foam. And that's where we get the lifting power. But because we can also adjust the chemical reaction, if you will, we can allow it to spread. And so that's where if folks have a large void underneath their concrete, that's where we can get the foam to then spread and fill voids.
Yeah.
So,
just random as you're talking about this, if I'm somebody that knows nothing about this, I think, what about like that spray foam that comes in a can? Are you even close to that?
well, it's funny because we'll get folks who will try that. And you can even see that on YouTube where they'll be sticking cans upside down on in a nice neat row on a sidewalk, and they'll attempt. There is some lifting power to that, but it's not rated for underground. It's not rated to be to repel water, and the longevity of it is I mean it's ridiculous.
So
ridiculous.
for people that do that though, does that make it more difficult for you to come in and do it with the actual
It's a great question.
No.
No, yes, no.
And
I had 20 cans. I tried to lift it with the 20 cans.
And we'll never come in with like the shameful approach. Like we are DIYers ourselves in a way, and so we can appreciate the effort and the kind of the knowledge side of it,
the creativity,
exactly. Ultimately, if we were to come into a situation like that, the foam that we would inject would then kind of engulf what they have tried to do. And that's the nature of the foam. It just can spread and engulfs everything. So,
how quickly does it expand? Because you said based on like you can adjust the chemical. I would assume like you guys are feeling it out based on how much and so it just comes up just right. But
so based on the temperature of the foam, and this is a little bit of the lifting process, but we have a temperature set at a specific degrees where it's creating. And for those that are not watching but listening to this, it's creating a foam pier. So you think it's like a foot wide, and it's giving us lifting power, and so the foam is just getting really dense really quickly, and that gives us the lifting power. And then we adjust the temperatures, and that chemical reaction slows the curing process, and so then the liquid, the 2-part liquid, can flow underneath the concrete. Filling all these crevices and encapsulating all the the substrate beneath it. Yeah. But at the end of the curing process, which is generally anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds, you have this really rock hard, dense foam.
Wow, that's fast.
So, is there a time of year where you wouldn't be able to do that because of having to manage the temperatures and things like that? So you'd maybe have to reschedule for a different time.
There is a kind of a 2-part answer to that. And so one part is that if the ground is frozen, typically we don't get the best results in the long-term effects of the foam, because once that ground melts, then the substrate's starting to move around again. And so then they'll see like movement after we've been there pumping it with foam. The other side of things too is if the outside temperature is too cold. So generally our number is about 40 degrees. If it's 40 degrees and sunny, we're ready to rock and roll. But if it's below that, then in order to keep the material warm as it's coming through the hose is heated. But anytime it's chilly out, then the hose is hard to keep warm. So the material
just a little tougher.
The material doesn't chemically react as well.
Yeah.
So
if you were doing it through like, let's say a, I don't know, 2-car garage, driveway, right, meeting there had dropped, like how many holes do you drill for that?
Yeah, another great question. So I'll give you a kind of a comparison too. So in mud jacking, the holes are generally the size of an apple, and they take this big hose and they stick it in there, and it pumps all the material. Our holes are about the size of our pinky, so 3/8 of an inch roughly.
Yep.
And on a 2-stall garage like that, we like to keep it in a nice clean pattern. And so you think maybe a couple feet off of the joint where the driveway and the garage meet, and then every 3 or 4 feet is a hole where we inject foam. And depending how far back we need to work because of the driveway that's dropped, we might have 3 or 4 rows of that.
Yeah.
So that in those holes, that's where we're building the piers. And
Yeah.
then if we need to fill a void, because now once we've lifted the concrete, now we've created a void. Well, we can't just leave it like that because now we're putting the concrete at risk of cracking and eventually not being the final great product that we want. And so we just come back and void fill from that point.
Yeah.
I was imagining, we're just like, once you put it in, it would kind of like spread and slowly lift. But now it makes more sense that you're creating piers to be the supports, and then you fill the void after that.
Yep.
I realized that we just started asking a ton of questions, and we were just very interested about it.
There's some excitement.
Yeah, I was like, so how does this work and that and blah, blah, blah. But the next actual question that we had provided you before this episode.
I like to just spitball.
Yeah, I like to spitball too. But what's a common misconception that people have about sunken versus cracked concrete?
Well, generally they go hand in hand. If a piece of concrete has sunk, generally there's going to be a spot on that concrete where it's the stress of it has cracked. And so when we show up to a concrete project, that's one of the signs we're looking for is where is the cracking pattern? And then that usually leads to, understanding how far it's dropped, what it might take to lift it up. And so they really go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes there's cracking and not much drop or not much of a drop or not much that needs to be lifted. And that's just because, through our freeze thaw cycles in here in Kansas, the soil that we have here in Kansas, there's just movement in the earth. And so that's kind of where you get the cracking from.
So that would be the main reason for or causes for settling or sinking or cracking would just be the ground and the soil beneath.
Expansion.
You got it. Yeah, you got it.
I guess for the people that weren't watching, I was doing like a weird thing with my hands. Like just
wait, was that the 6-7?
Yeah, that's the 6-7.
I didn't even know what that thing was. People kept saying it, and I was like, what is going on? I didn't look it up for like 6 months afterwards. And then by that time, like the trend was just over. So I wasn't.
You would have thought that me being in education, I would have had a pretty insider tip to that. But now that I'm removed from it, like I am so far behind on trends like that.
It's from some
like a song.
But how do little kids pick it up? And then it's one of those things. It didn't just get picked up. It like became national. But there's things from 20, 30, 40 years ago that like somehow everybody did.
Right.
Yeah, it's strange. But I guess I'm not cool anymore. So I just I don't understand those trends that come up. And I say I'm too late. It's like one of those things where it's like, when your mom starts saying it, it's not cool anymore.
Yeah,
but
if you're annoyed by it, just start doing it around your kids or say make a joke about it and they'll get embarrassed and then it'll go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if Lexie starts saying it, it's not cool anymore too. It's time to like move on.
Yeah. Well, I've gone from trying to be this cool middle school teacher and someone that kids can relate to like trying to make concrete cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's make concrete cool again.
Yeah.
Well, so are there certain areas of the home that are more prone to concrete issues? I mean, driveways, sidewalks, patios, garage floors.
Yeah, there are. And so anytime, anywhere that there's water accessing or around the concrete spaces, that's usually our trouble areas. And so you think of downspouts that are coming off of the roof or an irrigation system. And I actually have this issue at my house currently, but it's are the downspouts discharging water directly on top of the concrete or underneath the concrete? Is the grading at the home or the property such that water is pooling next to these concrete surfaces or even the foundation? Last summer I had an issue with my irrigation system and it was watering my concrete driveway when I should have been watering the grass. And so that over a span of a season can put strain on the concrete, but also the surface beneath it, or the substrate beneath it.
Yeah.
So when we show up to a project, that's probably the number one thing we're looking for in understanding the story of the concrete is it a water erosion issue? And if so, what do we have to do to take care of that first to then come in and inject some polyfoam beneath this to lift it up? And then the homeowner doesn't have to worry about it for, years and years.
Yeah.
So a scenario that could exist would be that somebody has water discharge regularly, and this concrete could be 5 years old, versus somebody who's had pretty good water management for 40 years and may have not experienced that.
Yeah, for sure. The concrete could be really good looking and really nice. There's not much cracking, but that water erosion is such that it's now creating a void. And maybe a critter is going to make that void a home. And
you don't
maybe
want to take away their home.
It's so sad.
They're going to help dig a little deeper in there.
Yeah. I had some bunnies. So I have
foxes, bunnies, all
I had a part of my front porch. There's a little bit of an overhang from the front of my house. And so bunnies have burrowed, and you can see where they're digging out because there's little chunks of like concrete and rock at the front door of their den. And so it's always interesting to try to get some of those animals out or ensure that they're out before we inject foam. And I say this with a big heart, but kind of jokingly that sometimes there's a frog in there that, gets encapsulated with foam, unfortunately.
He's sticking around.
Yeah.
Sticking around.
Yeah.
Well, if you do have critters, take them to Patrick's house. He is really kind to the critters.
Yep. Feed them. We feed them. We have fun with them. My pets are buddies with them too.
It's a safe haven.
It is.
Safe haven. So how do homeowners tell the difference between just like cosmetic crack or just something that might be a structural concern?
Yes. Typically it's the size of the crack.
Are you talking about are you talking about length, width, both?
Well, a little bit of both. Typically hairline cracks are kind of the first sign of stress. And what you might not even see a crack on the surface, but you'll be able to tell within the concrete. And one of the telltale signs is that after it rains, an area where there's a hairline crack or even a crack starting to form, that part will be take the longest to dry out. And so, and I keep going back to my driveway, but my driveway I had a hairline crack in it, and the sun would be shining on it. The whole driveway would be dry, but along that hairline crack, there's still a little bit of moisture. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing to look out for is the hairline cracking and the signs of moisture not drying up as quickly.
You have a science experiment at your own home that
I know,
you can refer back to.
And what's funny, so I haven't yet dealt with any of these projects because I'm almost using them as a case study because I have 2 sections of my driveway that have dropped because of my irrigation system. And sure, I can have the guys come over and help me get this lifted back up and seal some cracks and joints and make it look really nice. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to see where it goes.
Yeah, you're like, I want to see how bad is this actually getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, and there are far worse driveways than mine. But over time, these things just get worse. They don't get any better by themselves. And so, I'm using it as a case study, and my wife probably doesn't enjoy it. But
Are there things that, as you see these hairline cracks, are there things that a homeowner could do before it gets worse? Besides like diverting water, is there anything they can do to seal that up?
Yeah, diverting water, sealing the crack. And so one of our best practices is particularly with a crack that is hairline or even just a little bit bigger, is we actually like to grind that crack, the surface of that crack out to make the surface of it bigger. But that also allows us to get some silicone-based like mortar or grout into that crack to really seal it up. That will keep moisture from penetrating into that crack any further. And then from there, it's just really keeping an eye on it. So once we know that the moisture isn't penetrating, or like even in the winter when we have all this salt and sand and stuff, that stuff isn't getting into the crack any further. So then it's just keeping an eye on the concrete. And if it's starting to move, we're going to see that crack is going to start getting bigger. And at that point, we know that, or the homeowner or the property owner knows that maybe I need to stabilize this thing. And so that at that time, it's a good thing and very preventative. That's like a preventive maintenance item to just get some foam into there to stabilize it. And providing that all the water issues are taken care of, that thing is going to last for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Are there things, do you get to a point where it's like, hey, this is too tough to save? Or for most options that exist out there, most experiences, is it often salvageable on some level?
I had the same question.
Yeah, absolutely. And we part of how we like to approach conversations with folks that need their concrete repaired is that in a very transparent manner. And that's that if your driveway or your concrete surface is so far sunk, we're talking like multiple inches, or that it would take so much foam to lift it up. Generally, the concrete that has done that, the concrete surface isn't in a great spot. But if I guess there is a time where we would have to use so much foam that it would actually be more economical and price and cost effective for the homeowner to just replace it.
Yeah.
The benefit of what we do is that our the length of the project is just a few hours, and then once we wrap up the rig and pull out, it's ready to be used again. Whereas, as you guys know, and many people know that when you tear out and pour new concrete, it's a pretty long process and very invasive to your yard and things like that. Whereas we're protecting the landscaping and you hardly know that we're there. I guess that would be my best answer for that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So at what point does uneven concrete become just a safety hazard?
Very common question, and a great one. One of the aspects that we look at when we walk up and we'll get folks that are wheelchair bound, or they're elderly, or they have their in-laws are coming over and they have sidewalks or front stoops that have a tripping hazard, or it's a pretty large speed bump going into the garage, and so they really have to give the gas just to get into it. Those become kind of the safety hazards that we see. We generally don't refer to them as safety hazards because I'm sure someone could trip over them, but ultimately it's a combination of safety and functionality and curb appeal sort of thing. Yeah. But when you think of like a front stoop that's made out of concrete, generally in our neighborhoods here in Lawrence, particularly that they're 2 to 3 steps up to the front door.
Yeah.
And in most cases, those steps are poured to have like 7 inches of rise. So you have or about a 7-inch step up. And our human bodies are used to that 7-inch step. And so if a 2 or 3 step porch drops an inch, and then one of those steps becomes 8 inches instead of 7, well, because our bodies are so used to.
I'm just thinking about, like, I know that I've missed steps like that.
Yeah. And you can think about like, when you misstep or something like that, or it's something's just off, your body and your mind's like, oh, that didn't feel right.
That felt a little weird. Yeah. And so that would be one of the safety things that we see, is that our bodies are so used to not having to take a step on a walkway or step up to get onto a walkway, or that we're so used to that 7-inch rise going up and down steps that we just accidentally trip on it. So,
yeah. Like, even like, side note, like even thinking about some of the older homes, how they have like really, really tall steps.
Yeah, steep.
Yeah, and then they aren't very like wide. So it's like, then you're trying to like walk down and you're like, oh gosh, like where's the rail, or how do I get down this thing?
Yeah.
Those you have to think about.
Yeah, you definitely notice about this step. I wouldn't have even thought about that for whatever reason for a safety hazard. And now I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, we're not used to having to use brain power to like walk up the steps because it's so natural.
Yeah,
for sure.
What like when somebody does a repair, what might they anticipate would be like the durability of the repair? Yeah,
so the polyurethane foam that we use is a plastic essentially, so it's not going anywhere. The only thing that break down the polyurethane foam are UV rays, but because it's under concrete, it rarely sees the sun. Now, when we void fill, we always void fill to the edges of the concrete, and so there is some foam visible on the sides of the concrete, but we always spray paint it black, so the UV rays can't penetrate it. But also, it looks a little
looks more sleek, visual, more like cool, like
similar to my black polo. It's more stealthy.
Yeah.
But then we always advise like folks to backfill or add some dirt or mulch or some rocks to cover up and make it just look better. But the foam itself is very durable. It's very dense, long lasting, and then we also, as long as we can take care of the water issues and ensure that substrate now beneath the foam is not being washed away, then we can warranty the heck out of that thing, because we know that water's taken care of. The foam is, lifelong lasting. And if they take care of their concrete surface, it's going to last for a long time and it's going to look good.
Yeah.
I would think the surface piece would be what anybody might be at risk the most for, is that flaking and then once you start losing it, you start losing it.
Well, that's really what we're all about at TopGun too, is like when we show up, we don't really have anything to upsell you. We just have a really simple solution, and it's a quick solution, but it's a long lasting result. And that's that, like, we're going to come in and lift your concrete back to where it needs to be and where it's safe and functional. And if you're selling a house, it's going to have some really great curb appeal. We'll seal cracks and joints so water can't penetrate beneath the concrete anymore. And then if people really want to like kind of go all out with TopGun, that's we'll also pressure wash the surface. And then kind of our final product is to just put a sealant on it. Yeah. And you kind of do that premium package, so to say, and that gives what looked like kind of cruddy concrete. It was sunking, it was dirty, and it gives it new life. And particularly for homeowners that are looking to sell their home, when a buyer walks up to their front door and the concrete has gone through that full cycle, I mean, the home is holding its value, but it also is going to look very appealing.
I mean, and that kind of leads into a question that I have for the both of you. I mean, me as a lender and even as buyers, like, you do not want foundation, concrete issues, like you start getting to like, oh, structural stuff, this, whatever. And certainly like that comes up on inspections, and how does it necessarily come up on your end with the concrete issues on the inspections, and how can that derail the whole transaction?
Well, just as far as like a realtor goes, when you pull up to a driveway, and let's say I represent the buyer, you're going to be able to see, well, what's the condition of the driveway here? Something's going to have to be done at some point. So that's obviously going to be something that, just like the grass, just like, when you open the door and you step in, you get your first like curb appeal to the house, or what's it look like moving forward. I mean, the driveway and the sidewalk going up there is pretty critical. So if you then flip it and look at, as a seller, if you're looking to sell and you go and all of a sudden right before your stoop, there's a drop, everybody's going to notice that. They're going to have a more of a 7-inch step up, and they're going to stop and they're going to think about it. And so it's very typical that if you can get ahead of these things, then you got to get ahead of these things. Yeah. I don't know if you've had experiences helping keep transactions together, because there are things that pop up in a transaction and they're going to note the condition of your driveway, your sidewalk, your back patio. So, yeah.
So, and generally too, that's like the, almost like the surface level, the first impression of the home. But anytime that there's concrete that is sunk, in some cases it's sinking towards the home's foundation. Yeah. And so we think about like, sure, how does it look when you first walk up to it? But then if it has sunk and it's allowing water to go towards the foundation, well, now a homeowner should be like, or a buyer should be like, okay, if water is moving towards the foundation, what is the condition of the foundation? Because sure, our fix can get to be pricey, but as soon as you're dealing with foundation issues and water in the basement, that becomes a deal breaker for a lot of homes. And so,
yeah, it pops up on the appraisal, and then me as a lender, I'm like, la 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 la.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so, I want to hear it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the two-part question too, or the two-part answer is that sure, there's the curb appeal, and then the safety aspect of it. But then buyers should also be aware that sinking concrete also can lead to much larger foundation issues. And so to kind of give a solution for that, for folks that have their house on the market, and let's say they have some sinking concrete or concrete issues around their home, or they have drainage issues, we have a program that we call Pay at Closing. And so that's just as simple as we'll come in and perform the work. We'll get it done and it's safe again. It'll be functional, and they'll kind of get that curb appeal aspect back to it. And then without having to come out of pocket, we'll just essentially send the bill to the title company and we'll just be paid from closing. And so that allows the sale of the home to still go through without having all these red flags, without the homeowner having to pay cash out of pocket, and allow the process to just continue through to the final sale.
That could be the saving grace, because there's plenty of homeowners who are like, I know I need to take care of this, but I just don't have the funds right now to fix the back patio, which has a negative grade to it.
Right.
And so having an option of, well, if you can handle it now, then it's going to be one less hurdle as we go. Or if it comes up in an inspection, you have talked about a little bit about the cost difference on some of these things. Are you going to completely tear out the back patio and have the yard torn up and deal with the everything that goes in having your yard torn up? Or are you going to be able to do a lighter fix that's not so invasive but still lasts?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what's the biggest mistake that you see homeowners make when it comes to concrete issues?
The biggest mistake is, and this is common, is just getting back to waiting for later to take care of it. I can drive around town, and in specific neighborhoods, you can very easily see that there's a void underneath the driveway. The driveway itself is drivable, and there's no sinking. It looks great, but there's that void on the side, and the void can be backfilled with dirt and rocks and things, but that's not the long-term solution.
Like a short-term fix.
And in fact, there's not much stability to the concrete itself there because it's just not compacted in there properly. And so that's the largest mistake, is that there's a void present. It continues to grow, and they just don't fix it, or they don't handle it as soon as possible. Now, the nice thing about our solution is that sure, we're concrete lifting, but our foam is also really great at filling voids. And so even if a concrete on the surface looks really great, we can still pump foam beneath there and fill everything and fill all the voids. And so that it's like a blanket of stability and security that driveway is not going to go anywhere, because it now is stabilized by the foam beneath it, even though on the surface it looks pretty good. So
well, and that kind of jumps into this idea of I'll fix it later. Of if I don't fix it later, it's probably going to be a bigger issue and a more expensive issue.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So before we kind of get into our fact or fiction segment, what's something that we haven't covered or that you think would be really important for us to just kind of touch on?
Yeah, I think we've hit everything around concrete lifting and the solution that we could provide. I think what I'm finding and what we know about folks in Lawrence and even our surrounding community is that people want to have a trusted source and a trusted solution. And so our bread and butter is concrete lifting. We get folks that ask us all the time about, hey, can you tear out and replace, or can you pour us a new patio? Or I have this foundation issue and I have cracking in my drywall. Well, we don't necessarily do those things, but we certainly do have relationships with folks that we trust that do. And so we want to be a trusted source for concrete issues across the board. Our bread and butter, like I said, is concrete lifting. And we'll always come in with the educational approach. Like I said, we don't have much to upsell. It's concrete lifting, crack sealing, power washing of concrete surfaces, and sealing of driveways. Beyond that, you don't need much more. So, like I said, we try to run our business and build relationships the right way and perform the work the right way the first time. And so it's more about just building that reputation and holding strong to it. So
sounds like a great alternative.
You're diving into fact or fiction?
Let's jump into it.
Take it away.
Okay, so fact or fiction, cracks in concrete are always just cosmetic.
Fiction. Do I explain it?
You can explain.
If you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Cracks generally are a sign of stress. That's funny because I even think of like our faces. we get wrinkles in our face. It's a sign of stress and
or
wear
happiness.
and tear.
You have like the happy lines.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, cracks in concrete are a sign of stress in the concrete. So it might not look bad at the beginning, but it only gets worse.
Yeah, it'll get worse. Okay, I guess it could be like smile stress, like stress on your face.
Eyes.
Yeah,
stress on your face from like you're not stressed. Your face just is.
Yeah.
Insert a Botox ad right there.
There we go.
What? You've heard of concrete lifting. Let's
So
get a
what
little
about
bit of
face
facial
lifting?
lifting.
Oh my gosh!
What a partnership opportunity.
What a
too.
partnership!
Top Gun facelift.
If we can't fix it, we'll refer you for concrete. If we can't fix your face,
Sorry.
We'll keep taking that, Patrick.
yeah.
Okay. Uneven concrete doesn't affect home value.
Fiction. It certainly does, and I think it's number one, the first impression. When something is unsightly or unsafe or doesn't function right, and that's throughout the home. If the light switches don't work or the HVAC needs updated, those things all affect home value, and unfortunately, so does the concrete surfaces on the outside.
Yeah,
All adds up. Fact or fiction? Concrete lifting offers a long-term fix.
That's fact. It is a long-term solution. And it's the better the technology gets, the longer the solution is going to last. And we love that about the product, is that we can come in and be a real solution for folks, and not just let's just get it down the line type of thing.
Yeah. Concrete issues usually start inside the home.
Fiction. I'll say fiction. And generally they start outside the home with water management issues. But if water can be managed appropriately, then concrete, both horizontal surfaces and vertical surfaces, like a basement, will be intact for a really long time.
Good.
Yeah.
Some of these we've kind of already talked about. You just answered that thing about, so what I was going to ask you is fact or fiction, drainage is connected with sinking concrete.
Yes. So true.
So true.
So true.
And concrete problems will show up on inspections.
100%. That's a fact. I was just at looking at a project this morning where there was an engineer that came out and looked at it and gave a report. I was looking at the inspection report myself. A real estate agent had sent that to me last night before the viewing today, and there are certainly red flags. And sometimes because the inspector's looking at the outside of the property first, those are the first things that he annotates on the report. And so they're easy for me to find when I'm looking at the reports, but they're also easy for the homeowners to find or the buyers and so they're generally the first things that people see on the report, but then when they walk into the home. And so it could be a deal killer, a killer for the transaction and the sale and someone finding their new home. And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Well, sweet. Thank you for joining us, Jeremy. This was a fun episode.
Yeah.
And I really am considering reaching out to a Botox place for an ad. That was genius.
There you go.
Yep. I was, and then we can get you a collaboration going with them too, for sure.
Yep.
Well, if you like, subscribe, and share, we can get it out there, and
maybe we'll get an ad for that.
There you go.
We'll spread the word.
There you go.
We'll spread the word. I forgot to say that on the last episode.
Well, it's all good.
Okay. I'm supposed to be saying like, subscribe, and share. That was a goal for this season, and I just keep missing it.
Yeah. There's other ways to have a call to action, right?
That's
That's true. That's true.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
But thank you for the Lawrence Public Library. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, share.
Thank you for Top Gun being one of our sponsors as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. We love what you have going on here. And I know there's some exciting things in the work and a lot of growth to happen. And we're excited to be part of that. So,
well, sweet. Signing off.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on Lawrence Real and Local Keepin' It Real podcast. We appreciate our guests taking the time to join us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed today's episode.
For more information, please visit us on the web at www.lawrencerealtor.com. And remember, whether you are buying, selling, or simply dreaming of buying your future home, we're here to help. Until next time, keep it real.
And happy house hunting.